Okay, so, wow, the land of legends. Right, that's what they call Gujarat.
Yeah.
And looking at all the stuff about it, I can totally see why.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
You've got like 5,000 years of history just sitting there, like cultures mixing all over the place and the landscapes. Oh my gosh.
And let's not forget the modern economy, huh?
No, for sure. They're booming. Like one of our courses said, it's this perfect blend of tradition and modernity.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to try to figure out today, right? How does a place do all of that at once?
It's a puzzle, but a fascinating one. And I think that blend is exactly what makes Gujarat so interesting. It's like you've got these Indus Valley civilization sites, right? Lothal and Dolavira.
Oh, yeah, I was reading about those.
Talk about ancient urban sophistication, like
Slow
blown away. And then you fast forward to today, and they're a total industrial powerhouse. So it's like all these layers of time, right, all stacked up on each other. You've got empires that came and went, Mauryas, the British, everybody, basically they left their mark. And then on top of that, you have this culture known for business smarts, incredibly colorful festivals, and food that's in a league of its own. And then
landmarks.
The landmarks.
Each one telling a piece of the story.
Exactly. It's like contrasts everywhere you look, you know?
Yeah.
Makes you think.
All right, so let's go way back, all right? 5,000 years back, that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. But we're talking Indus Valley civilization.
Right.
We still have Lothal and Dolavira to, like, show us what they were doing back then. What blows your mind about these places, knowing how old they are?
Honestly. The planning. You look at Lothal and Dolavira, right? And you see the drainage systems, how well planned those cities were. It's not just some basic stuff. They knew what they were doing. The dockyard at Lothal specific, I mean, that's engineering, man. And way ahead of its time, you know, centuries ahead of other civilizations.
Yeah.
So that tells me, like, their society was complicated, right? They had technology that, honestly, throws a wrench in the timelines we thought we knew about development in the region.
So then you go through, I don't know, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, and you've got all these empires coming in one after the other. It's like this parade of power through Gujarat.
Yeah.
You got the Mauryas, the Gutas, then the Chalukyas, the Solankis, the Mughals come in, and then finally the British. How do you think all that back and forth, that flow, how did that shape Gujarat into what we see today?
Well, you know, I think it goes to show how important this region has always been strategically, right? Like, look at it on a map. It's perfectly positioned. Trade routes, natural resources, all of that. So each of these empires, they came in, did their thing, and they left something behind.
Right.
It's in the culture, the buildings, the whole mix. It's not just a straight line of history. It's like they all layered something on top. And that's what makes the Gujarati identity so interesting, right? It's not one thing. It's all of it together.
So our sources, they talk about 3 things that Gujaratis are known for. And I got to say, it's a pretty awesome combination.
Yeah, what's that?
They're known for being super sharp in business, for their festivals, which are like explosively colorful, and their food, which, I mean, come on, Gujarati food is just
the best.
Let's start with the festivals. They sound absolutely wild. You've got Navratri, Uttarayan, the Ran Utsav. Just the names alone are like, boom, energy.
They're definitely vibrant. And you have to remember, when we're talking about Gujarati culture, these festivals, they're not just holidays, you know? They're like essential to who they are, like community, tradition, all of that. Navratri, for example, 9 nights of dancing. Garba and Dandiya Ras, right? Our sources say it's India's biggest dance festival. That says a lot.
Wow.
Then there's Uttarayan, the kite festival. It's not just flying kites. It's like the whole state comes together. Music, special food, everyone's up on the rooftops, young, old, everyone.
That's so cool.
And the Ran Utsav, man, they take this desert, right, this stark white desert, and they turn it into a festival. Folk music, crafts, all sorts of experiences you can't get anywhere else. It all happens during the winter months, too.
That's wild. So you've got community, you've got celebration, and then, oh man, you've got the food. Vegetarian food, but hold on, we're talking sweet, spicy, tangy all at once.
It's something else.
Now, I'm not an expert on this cuisine. What's the one thing that makes it so different, so special?
It's all about taking simple ingredients, you know, everyday stuff, and then boom, they make all these amazing textures, flavors. Like dokla, you ever had that?
I haven't, but it's on my list.
It's this steamed, flucky snack. Fermented batter, rice, and chickpea flour. It's so good. Then there's thepla, these flatbreads, spiced just right. People take them on trips because they stay fresh forever. And then there's kanvi.
What's that?
Oh, man, they're these delicate little rolls made with gram flour and yogurt. It's like art, how they get those flavors balanced. Then you have the classics, right? Fafta and jalebi, crispy, savory, and then that sweet jalebi. People eat that for breakfast.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And you can't forget undiyu. That's the winter dish. Like all these vegetables cooked together in this earthen pot. Super traditional. It shows you like what they had available, how they cooked back in the day. It's, I don't know, it's comfort food, but it's also like super diverse.
My mouth is watering. Okay, let's talk tourist attractions. We got to start with the Statue of Unity. The world's tallest statue. I mean, come on, that's got to be impressive.
Ooh.
Dedicated to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, so it's clearly more than just a big statue, right?
Oh, yeah. 182 meters tall. That's like engineering genius right there. But there's so much more to see.
Mm.
Well, they've got this museum all about Sardar Patel's life, how he helped unify India. It's crucial context. Then there's the viewing gallery. The views are unbelievable. You can see for miles. And they even have a jungle safari and laser shows, so it's not just for history buffs, you know?
And next we've got Gir National Park. And our source makes a big point of this. It's the only place in the world to see Asiatic lions in the wild.
Yeah, no pressure, right. But it's true. And it's amazing because it means conservation efforts are working. Those lions, they're not just surviving, they're thriving there. And it's not just lions either. You've got leopards, crocodiles, tons of birds. It's a really important ecosystem.
Now, let's go to the other extreme, Rann of Kutch. This massive white salt desert.
It's like another planet, honestly.
Seriously. And then they have this Ran Utsav that happens from November to February. It's like they take this empty landscape and they turn it into...
Like a little party.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's crazy about the Rann of Kutch is it's so stark, right? It's beautiful, but it's like bare. And then the Ran Utsav comes in and it's like this burst of culture. You're riding camels across this white expanse. There's folk music everywhere. You can see crafts being made. And at night, under the full moon, they have these cultural performances and you can camp out right there in the desert. It's like a total sensory overload in the best way possible.
All right, let's switch gears to temples. First up, Somnath, one of the 12 Jyotirlingas of Lord Shiva. And it's got this crazy history, right?
Yeah.
Destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed again, all right there on the Arabian Sea. That must be a powerful place to visit.
Oh, yeah. It's about faith, right? That no matter what, it gets rebuilt. It's been through so much, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And the Arabian Sea, that just makes it more peaceful and more beautiful, you know? It adds to that whole spiritual experience.
Then you have Dwarka, right? Another super sacred city for Hindus.
Right.
This is where the Dwarkadish temple is, dedicated to Lord Krishna. It sounds like a whole network of important sites, like Bet Dwarka and the Rukmini Temple are all nearby.
It's a big deal. Like one of the 4 most holy places, the Chardham, people go on pilgrimage to the Dwarkadish temple, but then there's all these other spots nearby, like Bet Dwarka. They think that was Lord Krishna's actual home originally. Then there's Rukmini Temple, dedicated to his wife. So it's like this whole interconnected sacred area. And then you have the Gomti Ghat, where the river meets the sea. It's a really significant spot for pilgrims.
Now let's go from sacred to, well, huge city, Ahmedabad.
Right.
UNESCO World Heritage City. It's the largest city in Gujarat. They're known for their history, but also their street food, which we'll have to come back to, and their textile markets. Sabarmati Ashram, Kankaria Lake, Adalar Stepwell, Jama Masjid. They've got it all.
It's a perfect example of that whole tradition meets modern thing we were talking about earlier. You've got the Sabarmati Ashram, huge for India's independence movement. Then the stepwells, like the Adalar Stepwell, not just pretty to look at. They were super practical how they stored water. And the Jama Masjid, beautiful Islamic architecture. But then on top of all that, it's this modern economic hub. The street food is insane, and the textile industry is still going strong. So many different sides to it.
And there's still more to see. Champaner Pavagad Archaeological Park, another UNESCO site, mosques, temples, and stepwells from the 15th century. That's got to be a dream for anyone who loves architecture.
Oh, it's a gold mine. You really get a sense of that period in history, how the different styles came together. It's packed with historical structures. It's amazing.
Now let's get out of the city for a minute. There's Saputar Hill Station. And this is interesting. Our source says it's the only hill station in all of Gujarat.
Yeah, pretty unique.
So if you want to break from the heat, some peace and quiet, some nature, you go here.
Totally. It's like the opposite of the plains of Gujarat. You can hike, there's a lake for boating, the weather's cool, the views are beautiful.
Then we have Losel and Dolavira again. We talked about them earlier. But they're also major tourist attractions, right? You can actually go there and see what's left of those ancient Harappan cities.
Yeah.
The drainage systems, the dockyards, all of that. You can see it firsthand.
It's like stepping back in time, you know. You walk through those ruins and it's like, wow, they were so advanced back then. The planning, the engineering, it's mind-blowing. And it makes that whole Indus Valley civilization come to life. Like you can actually feel it.
And then we've got, last but not least, the Madhera Sun Temple. They call it a stunning 11th century temple dedicated to Surya, the sun god. And they mention intricate carvings and this stepwell called Ramakund. It sounds gorgeous.
It's a masterpiece. The carvings are so detailed, and the stepwell is amazing. It's got all these geometric patterns and smaller shrines around it. It's a work of art, and it shows you how talented the artists were back then, how important their religion was to them.
Okay, we've done a lot of history. We've seen the sights. Now let's get back to that food, shall we? We talked about some of the main dishes earlier, but there's so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah. So much.
What else do you think we should try?
All right, well, first you got to try the street food. Sevusol, that's lentils and crunchy sev, and dabili. They stuff these little buns with mashed potato and spices. So good.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
Then there's this thing called surati locho, a soft, spicy snack they make in Surat. And for dessert, there's mohanthal, made with ghee and gram flour and gura, these sweet pastries. Those are usually for special occasions, but you got to try them.
Definitely.
And then there's hanvo. It's like a savory cake they make with lentils and rice. It's baked or pan-fried, super flavorful.
Sounds like a food tour is in order. Okay, let's talk about a different side of Gujarat now, their economy. The sources call it India's industrial powerhouse. That's a big deal. What makes them so powerful?
They're killing it in a few big industries. Petrochemicals, diamonds, and textiles. They're huge in all of them.
I knew about the textiles, but diamonds too.
Oh, yeah. Surat, they call it the Diamond City of India because they polish like 90% of the world's diamonds there. It's crazy. Then you have Ahmedabad, which is still big in textiles, but they've also got all these new startups popping up, and car manufacturing is growing there too. And then, get this, some of the biggest oil refineries in the world are in Gujarat, in Kutch and Jamnagar, run by these huge companies like Reliance and Essar.
So they've got the industry, but it makes sense, right? They got the geography too.
Yeah.
Our sources say they have India's largest coastline, so trade and transportation must be a big part of the equation.
Absolutely. 1,600 kilometers of coastline plus major ports like Kandla and Mundra. That's how they move all that stuff they're making domestically and internationally. It fuels the whole economy.
Okay, now, I like to shop. What about shopping in Gujarat? Where do I need to go?
Well, depends what you're looking for, right? But let's see. You've got Law Garden in Ahmedabad. They have all sorts of crafts, bandhani saris, embroidered textiles.
I love those.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Then in Bhuj and Kutch, you've got these markets with all this amazing mirror work and really nice leather goods. In Surat, of course, you can buy diamond jewelry, and they have great silk saris there, too.
Okay, I'm going to Surat.
Oh, and in Rajkot and Jamnagar, you've got to check out the silver jewelry and the brass items they make. And they have these traditional Gagra cholis. They're stunning. Vadodara is the place to go if you're looking for Shanderi and Patola saris, too.
Wow, I'm going to need another suitcase. All right, let's go back to festivals for a minute. One of the sources calls them a celebration of life in Gujarat.
And it's so true.
We talked about Navratri, the Ranotsav, and Uttarayan, but let's dig a little deeper, really get a feel for what they're all about.
Okay, so Navaratri, it's way more than just a dance festival. It's about everyone coming together. You know, it's the music, the dancing, but it's also the religious traditions, all of that combined. Then the Ranotsav, it's like this total immersion in the Kutch region, all the arts, the crafts, the culture, they showcase it all. And Uttarayan, the kite festival, it's pure joy. It doesn't matter how old you are, what you do, everyone gets up there on the rooftops and flies a kite. It's really something special. And let's not forget the Modhera Dance Festival. Right at that beautiful sun temple, classical dance against that backdrop. It's amazing.
And so it's not just desert and coastline, right? We've also got the Marine National Park, Polo Forest, the hill stations, Wilson Hills and Saputara. And then you've got these sacred sites like Gurnar and Palatana that have amazing views. And then there's Dumas Beach with the black sand. That sounds mysterious.
Right. It's like, where else can you find all this? The Marine National Park near Jamnagar, it was India's first marine park, and it's full of coral reefs, all this amazing marine life. Polo Forest is great for hiking, just beautiful nature. Then you've got the hill stations for a total climate change, amazing views up there. And yeah, the pilgrimage sites, they're sacred, but the nature is incredible too. And Dumas Beach, yeah, with the black sand and all the stories about it, it's definitely a little spooky, kind of cool.
All right, before we finish, we got to mention those fun facts.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Gandhiji was born in Gujarat, in Porbandar. The very first seaport in India was in Lothal, in Gujarat. The only place in the world to see Asiatic lions in the wild is in Gujarat, in the Gir Forest. Amul, the big dairy brand, started in Gujarat, and they have the longest coastline in India.
It's a lot to be proud of, right? I mean, those facts tell you so much. History, how important nature is to them, how entrepreneurial they are, that whole Amul thing, and that coastline geography matters. It all adds up to a picture of a state that's been around forever and has contributed so much to India.
So to wrap it all up, why visit Gujarat?
Yeah, why?
I think the sources nailed it. Heritage, wildlife, temples, festivals, beaches, business hubs. Basically something for everyone.
Exactly. History buffs, nature lovers, if you're spiritual, if you love to party, relax, shop, learn about business, it's all there.
So we've gone through 5,000 years of history, the culture, the nature, the economy, the land of legends, right? It's ancient, it's modern, it's resilient. It makes you think, what's the next chapter for a place like that? And what about for you, listener? What part of all this, what stood out to you, what makes you want to learn more? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.